Okay, so the training sessions, they're really a learning experience for us as well. We haven't done a lot of these. We were looking to organize a session in May for many of our consulting partners, and that, of course, fell apart with the COVID exercise, and so we're trying this as an alternative. So certainly, feel free to email through the chat or whatever. You can let us know what you think, anything that could be changed, improved. What we've planned for this first series of training sessions, we have 4 of them. The first one today is just an overview of our program and the website, and I will give that. Next week, we thought we would have a focus on geology, and Rick Gerber, my colleague, will be running that session. Of course, the geology is fundamental to what we're doing, but the fact that we do numerical groundwater modeling, and really in that part of our program, we have to understand surface water and climate information and the interaction between the whole hydrologic cycle. And certainly Mason is an expert in that, and he's going to be running session 3, which is on water budgeting and showing you some of the tools that are available on the website. And then the 4th session, pulling it all together, we're still a bit open on that session. We certainly have ideas on where we'll take it, but if you have, again, any input or something you'd like to see us emphasize more, then you're certainly welcome to let us know. And certainly if there's anything you see on the website that you'd like to know more about, we can certainly offer more sessions going forward. So some of the central themes on our program, I thought I would just highlight these so that you have an idea of where we're coming from. So really we have, in our experience, recognized that in Ontario and generally everywhere, people haven't done a good job of managing environmental data. And we've done a lot of work in the past that we really don't have access to, and we tend to reinvent the wheel. So in our program, we want to learn from the past, and you'll see how we're doing that. We have a long-term focus, so the program has been going for nearly 20 years now, and we hope that it'll continue for a long time going forward. We have a respect for the data. We think the data should be well-managed, trustworthy, and active. So we're always changing it and fixing it. Every time we see errors, we fix it. So it's constantly changing. It's an active database. We don't just want to provide access to just the data. Oh, I said a date there. We want some insightful interpretations as well, and you'll see some of that on the website. So knowledge, insight we want to provide. Rick always says, everything in the database, we should assume all our interpretations, everything's wrong. And of course, in some ways he's right, but we think we've done a great job of pushing things forward. But of course, we're always continually improving things. New data will give us new insights and therefore new interpretations. And really what we're trying to do is build a community resource here. So the community of technical folks, hydrogeologists, surface water and watershed people, we set out a long time ago to try and build a better system where we can understand the subsurface framework and where we can manage water in a better way. And really, I want to emphasize this as well, that it's a two-way street. And if you come across data, reports, things that could change the interpretation or what we're doing, we're always welcome to receive that. This is a well-worn diagram now that I keep showing in my presentations, but really it's how our program has been structured, with an emphasis on the bottom there on database management. Once you have the data in place, you understand that you build up the geology and then the hydrogeology. Often you're putting groundwater models together to try and understand how water is moving through the system. All that leads to better decision making at the top there. And this is from a 2009 report from the Council of Canadian Academies, which we were a part of. I just wanted to introduce you to our team. So Rick Gerber is along with myself, we manage the program. Mason and Mike and Britt are our other 3 cohorts in the program. And then at CLOCA, at Central Lake Ontario Conservation Authority, we have a really strong team of GIS experts and website experts that really help us with the website. So Rod, Annie, Andrew, Sylvia, Dave, and Nathan are really important to the program and the website that you're going to see. And certainly, there's tons of people in here that have helped us out from all different agencies, from all different companies. There's consultants, drillers, administrators, and so on. So lots of people have contributed to what you're going to see, and we thank everyone who has had a hand in helping us to get where we are. So a couple points to keep in mind as we go through this exercise, though. I'm going to show you a lot of different things on the website, and we've heard some comments in the past that says, geez, there's so much there, it's difficult and intimidating. And really, we want to let you know that even if you see one part on the website that is useful to your work and that you can use in your day-to-day activities, then by all means, just use the one part of the website. You don't have to know all of it, and you don't have to hunt around for everything. I mean, just you can snoop around on your own. If you have an account to the passworded site, then certainly play around and make use of it. Another point, when we present some of the information on the website, people get all excited about it and say, wow, we've got to use that. And then we find that they don't go back to the website. They forget about it. Everyone has their day-to-day work to do. They tend to forget that the site exists, and they fall back into their same old workflows or habits. And so really, I want to make a point of emphasizing that you have to remember that, oh yeah, son of a gun, those guys have that website that I might want to take a look at to help me out in a certain project or study. Before we get started, I did want to mention that there are two parts of the website. There's a maps icon on the top of our website that is publicly accessible, and everyone can go in and look at the maps and look at the information. And so publicly accessible, that list on the left-hand side there is available to anyone. And the password part of the website is everything on the left, plus you can download data. We have access to the documents. You can draw cross sections. There's a really comprehensive analysis that Mason's put together of climate, surface water, groundwater. We have some land use mapping, and you can print some reasonably good images from the website. The reason we have a passworded part is largely because of the documents, which we were told that there's a lot of privacy information sometimes in the appendix of reports where people have done well surveys and so on. And legally we're told we shouldn't really make that available to the public. So that's password protected. And then as a result, we thought, we should try and make that accessible for consultants to do their work. And we've designed the whole site really in Rick and I's vision, and Mike and Mason as well. But we've built the site really to assist consultants. We come up from a consulting background, and we thought that we could build a site where consultants could come and really start to raise the bar in terms of their analysis. They don't have to hunt for data so much, but they can come in and use the site to move forward. Okay, so those are my introductory words. I'm already a couple minutes behind where I want to be, so we're going to flip over now to the website. And that's not the website. Okay, so when you come to the website, you'll push the sign in. We're going to go through in this exercise here through the passworded part of the website so you can see everything. So when you sign in, you land on this page here, and there's a number of places where you can go. So the maps, we're going to explore this in some detail today. There's two ways to search for the documents. We have about 11,000 to 12,000 documents in the library right now, so it's building all the time. This is outdated. It says 6,000 here. But you can search through the report library search and the document search. We'll combine those at some point, but we haven't got there yet. This direct link to the live database, if we have you trained on accessing the database, we would give you a password and you could come in and upload. So some of our partner agencies come in and upload long-term monitoring data and so on into the database, and then it's available, 1 week later. We have a number of tables and processes and scripts in the database that Mike has put together that generate all the information that goes onto the website. And they're refreshed every Sunday night, Saturday night, Sunday morning, so that the website is out of date with the database by only about 1 week at the most. Okay, so we'll start here by looking at the report library search. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to find what you're looking for in our website. So the report library search is really structured to look at a few tables in our database. And you can search by report name, author agency, if it's a consulting company, and so on. So I'll just go here and maybe search for a community, say Cannington. I do a search, up come all the reports. In Cannington, I could hit on any of those reports. No document found, huh? Okay, that is not supposed to happen. This is what usually happens. Okay, I don't know what happened with that report. So quickly you can find the reports. We'll check that other one, but usually the reports are right at your fingertips, and you can grab them and use the information and the insight from those reports in your study. So if I go back to the top, you can see I'm going to clear this search. Author agency, you can see here that, you know, if I type in, say, Gardner Lee, who I used to work for, I could search for all the reports by Gardner Lee and so on. So that's a one way to find information in the database. So I'll close the report library search. We'll go back here. The document search allows you to look for keywords in the document. And there's another feature here, the document type that we have in the database. So I wanted to emphasize here quickly that, you know, we even have newspaper articles on anything related to groundwater or environment that we've found over the years, borehole logs, there's maps in here, journal papers, consulting reports, you know, water policy related documents. There's just a whole treasure trove of information in here that if you're looking for information on water in Ontario, this is really quite a comprehensive place to start. And you'll see if you come and snoop in here, maybe do it after hours so you don't get docked by your boss for slacking off. But there's a lot of information in here that we think can help you in your day-to-day work. So I'm going to clear that. And then this is where you put the word search in. So I often just type in Eudora here. So it's a small community in Durham region near Lake Simcoe. You see that the reports come up, and certainly Eudora isn't in the title of the report. It's somewhere found, maybe even the appendix. So this search goes and finds keywords in any document, and you can hunt down documents that might have a community or a street name or something that you're looking for. Okay, so that's the report library search. The other part here, monitoring data, we may or may not come back to. So it depends how much time we have at the end. I'll take you through this, but we could come back to that in the 4th training session if we don't get to it today. Okay, so what I want to do now is go to the maps. So when I click on the maps icon, I wind up on this page here. And if you scroll down, you see that there's a whole bunch of individual maps here. We started building these a few years ago, one at a time. And they're all up to date, and you can go to each map separately if that's what you want to do. But at the end of the day, we consolidated them all into this one map up top. So really, when you come to the maps window, the top 3 maps are the only 3 that you might want to play around with. All the ones below you could go to, but they're all merged into this consolidated map. So I'm going to open the consolidated map here, and when you come in, you have to sign in. You might get that box, the security box, just prompting you for your name. There's a disclaimer that comes up that basically we're offering all this information for the good of Ontario and making better decisions and so on. So the disclaimer basically just says that you're, where's my disclaimer? Didn't come up. Huh. Did I bypass it already? Anyway, the disclaimer says that you're going to use the information properly. And for the consultants on the there it is. Consultants, you know, basically that you'll be ethical. All of us are professional staff, and we expect people to use the site appropriately. Okay, so when you come into the site, you land on, the first thing that I do is click this layers button in the lower left, and that gets you past on the left here. When you come in is a description of all the different kinds of maps. You can read them if you want, but once you hit the layers button in the bottom here, that goes away and you're all ready to start. So the first place I'm going to go to is, if you come up to the top left, you'll see that there's a pull down list here of all the different themed maps that are available. And you can mix and match any layer from any of these maps, and I'll show you some of that as we go forward. Okay, so the first place I'm going to go is, since we just talked about documents, let's go to the document themed map. So one of the things we've done with all the documents, if possible, is to put an XY coordinate on them, and you could find them all here. So if you're looking for, you know, I can just zoom in on any site. I have a few places bookmarked that I've done some work on. So if I zoom into Kleinberg as an example, I could click on any of these reports, the XY coordinate, you click on the point, and the site is usually pretty quick, I will say. So there's a report, you know, that you can open from 1998. I can open the folder. It seems a little bit slow today. Okay, there we go. So I've opened it a few times now. Yeah, okay, now it caught up to me. So you can open the folder, you get the report. Sometimes there's a couple of zip files with other data and so on. You can download those and take a look, but there's always a PDF there with the report. So if you have a site or a watershed that you're looking at, you can quickly come to the map and have a look at if there's any pre-existing information for your study. So one of the things I want to show you right off the bat here, we have the specialty. The green bar along the top is your navigation bar. Usually you don't use it. I find I don't use it all that much. I leave it on these specialty tools. One of the things that's interesting is you can filter on this GeoCortex mapping site really easily. And so if I put a filter on here, I go to the filter button. I'm going to filter all documents here, and the bibliography. So Mike has put a clever view together that takes a lot of the information from our document table in the database and puts together a bibliography. So I'm going to say I want to find, say, all the reports that have Coleman in the bibliography. And so Coleman, of course, was one of our earliest geologists in the Toronto area. And if you click on any of his reports, so this is a 1913 map. So really what we've tried to do is build a one-stop shop for anything that you might need to understand water and geology in the geography that we're dealing with, which is 3 source water protection areas: the CTC source water protection area, Lake Simcoe, south in Georgian Bay, and the Trent Coalition in the east. So across that geography, we have tried to capture as much information as we can. You can also filter, you know, if you wanted other reports by, say, the Geological Survey, you could just say, give us all the reports where the surveys worked, and if you click on any of those, you would see they're probably Geological Survey, and or if you want reports that, you know, produced by Golder, you could do that. Or if we try to record the reports by author, so you could even come in here and see if we have any of your reports if you're a consultant or working for one of our partner agency staff by just putting your last name in there. Okay, so that's the documents. We think that's a really powerful tool. And over the years, I mean, you could see if I clear the filter, we have documents that extend beyond our geography. And that's simply as a result, if we come across things that are interesting, relevant to water management in Ontario, and they're on our desk, we'll basically throw them into the database and just add them with the view, again, of a long-term direction for managing information. Okay, so I'm going to close the documents. I'm going to clear this filter here, and then I'm going to jump back to the location map. So this is where we started, if you remember at the beginning. So you'll see in here, I'm just going to minimize these legend items here. So you see that we have a bunch of different types of data, permits to take water, and so on. So I'm going to show you a couple of these. You can come in here on your own and snoop around a bit. But some of the interesting ones, I'm going to shut those climate stations off. I'm going to turn on this groundwater knowledge insight locations. So Ross Hodgins, who used to work with the Ministry of the Environment, has really helped us populate a lot of these sites. And what we've tried to do with these, we've created in the database a memo field that allows us to write a little paragraph about any site in the database. And so if I click on any of these points, it's probably still opening. What you wind up getting is this one, yeah. So is a memo. It's a little paragraph of what's going on here. So this is a sewer failure with flowing conditions in the city of Toronto, and we just wrote a little snapshot about it that you could read. And really, what the idea of these. My light just went off in the office here. I got to move. Okay, so the idea of these is to pass information along that we have gained over the years. And if someone is starting their career as a geologist or hydrogeologist in 2050, they'd be able to come here and say, really quickly say, oh yeah, this is a flag. I better be careful of what I'm doing here. Or there's, some of these mentioned big aquifer systems that have lots of water. Some of them are flowing conditions. They're just different groundwater related stories, because groundwater is hidden from view. You don't often see it. And so you can look around with the sites that we do have. We're adding to this all the time. And again, if you have sites that you think are worthy of mention or adding to the map here, we would certainly welcome that. Okay, so that's groundwater knowledge sites. We also, we do a lot of work with the conservation authorities. This is the flowing water information site, a database that's managed by M&R. It used to be managed by M&R. It sits over now at the University of Waterloo. And if you click on any of these sites, there's data on fish and benthic data and so on that's stored over at the University of Waterloo. And we just have a link to it. So you have to go and chase the data from their database. We don't really have the data, but we have a link to their locations, and they have a link to our locations on their database. So we've just exchanged, this linkage between our two databases. And so those are here. You can turn the boreholes on here, but I'm going to show you those on the borehole themed map. If you go to climate stations, we have active and discontinued stations. If I click on any of these stations in terms of climate, you can see that you get an analysis of what's there. So the number of precipitation readings and temperature readings. That one doesn't have recent data. I mean, usually these do, because Mason has written this nice routine to go and grab data from the Environment Canada database. Let me find one that's up to date. These active ones, the red ones, are active stations, and you can see that we used to monitor climate a lot more rigorously than we do now. Come on. Okay, you have to have a little bit of patience. The site is pretty fast, given the fact that the database is about 80 gigabytes of data. There's millions and millions of water levels, pumping rates, climate data, streamflow data, and so on in the database. And really being able to get at it so quickly is really nice. Now that map looks frozen to me because nothing is happening. Okay, I'm still moving, but I shut off the climate stations. Now this, I will say that the site is actually very, very stable. And I'm quite confident, even if it doesn't work today, it will be working when you guys come in to look at it next time. So, you know what, with climate data and surface water data, Mason is going to talk about that in much more detail in session 3. So I might come back to it if I have time, but I'm going to jump away from, okay, well, there one popped up. But again, that's must be an old station. Okay, now they're finally going. Okay, so you know what? Let me come back to those because I wasn't happy with that performance. So I'm going to go to the boreholes for a second. So when you open up the borehole themed map, we have the boreholes are partitioned into a number of different groupings, as you see down here. We have it defaulted to show flowing wells, so you know these could be a concern. In our website, whenever you click on a well, so I'm going to again click on a well here. You see there's 10 wells where I clicked, so I can just flip through all of those 10 and see them. But what is interesting is that we have a direct link to the Ministry of the Environment's website. So this is going, you see up top here, it's going to the MOE website and gives you a direct link back to the original water well record. So as you're looking at the map here, you can go back to the data and have a quick look. And we also have a borehole log that we generate ourselves for, there's many wells in the database, I should mention, that are not from the MOE. We've put in a lot of consultant boreholes, there's oil and gas wells in here, there's outcrops in here, there's many sources of wells that are beyond the MOE, and as a MECP, of course, but as a result, some of them don't have water well records. So we have this routine that gives you, kind of a little borehole record here. You can play around with the boreholes looking at this option box here. So if I want to change the scale to say every 10 meters or so, I can apply that and it changes the scale there. And you can stretch it out by playing around in here. So just let you know that it's kind of hidden up top, but there's an option box there. Okay, so let me close that. So just the link to the MOE is interesting. So if I turn on all boreholes, I can turn on all boreholes. If I flip to again a area that's smaller, they come up quicker. One of the interesting things that is just being added, and this is only in the last week, but this database view. So we've been trying to allow you to get more access into the database. And so if you click this database view button here, now my wells went away, come on. So I take the box here and I'll draw, why are my wells not coming on? Well, the wells are not supposed to vanish. Okay, let me see if it grabs them anyway. So I'll draw a little box, say that's my site. No, it's still working. Yeah, I don't know if
Hi, Steve.
Yeah?
Hi, it's Annie.
Yeah, hi, Annie.
So the mapping is most likely being slowed down here because of the Teams meeting itself. It's slowing the performance. So don't stress.
Okay.
It'll be just as normal if you're not in the meeting.
Okay, thanks for that, Annie. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I was wondering.
Don't panic.
Okay, so there we have a reason for it. Okay, so once I draw that box and it, I think it's capturing those wells. Yeah, that's unfortunate. We should have done the Teams meeting through a different pathway. Okay, it doesn't look like that is gonna cooperate. Let me try one more time quickly because it's a neat little feature, especially if you're a consultant. So anyway, let me tell you what happens. So you draw your box there. It takes the data from those wells that you've circled on your site. It'll pop up a table down here. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so you have access to direct tables in the database. And you could download those right into an Excel table or a CSV or whatever. And so it's kind of a nice handy way to get right at the data in our database. Okay, so that is one feature I did want to show you. Okay, now they're all showing up. So I wanted to show you that. I want to, okay, so somehow we've gone back to locations. So I'm going to flip back to boreholes. Flowing wells are on. Another layer that I wanted to focus on here quickly was the boreholes with supplementary logs. So if I turn this layer on, I'm going to zoom out a bit. So what we've tried to do in this layer here is to give you access to consultant boreholes. So in addition to the water well records, like I said, there's many wells in here. So I'll click on one here as an example, and hopefully it won't take too long. So the box here pops up. You can go to the MOE. If I open up the MOE water well record for this well, there's none available. Okay, so this well isn't in the ministry's database, but I can open up the non-MOE borehole log here. And what you get is, in this case, is a borehole log from the Department of Inland Waters, a really deep well that was drilled in 1972 in the Laurentian Valley. And so many of these key wells are wells that Rick has used, and you'll hear a little bit about this next week when he's talking about geology. But they're key wells that we've used that are really not easily accessible to everyone. And so what we've tried to do is if you click on any of these purple boreholes, you can always open up the borehole log and get right access to the consultant's interpretation. And again, some of them might have, oh, that was the wrong, some of them might have water well records, and you can compare the consultant's interpretation to the Ministry of Environments. And you can see we've had some linear sewer projects where we've put all the boreholes in, TTC lines, and so on. And so we're adding to this all the time. And for consultants on the line, I mean, if you we put these boreholes in manually, but if you gave us GINT databases and so on key wells, it would really help us populate this and bring it a lot further, a lot quicker. And so we have forms and so on that you could show to your clients, maybe get permission to give us borehole logs. And we can discuss that more as we go forward. Okay, so I think on borehole logs, the other thing that I wanted to show you quickly, I'm going to try to turn all boreholes on, but you could filter the boreholes. So if I go to the filter tool again and I go filter all boreholes, I can say, okay, I want really deep boreholes. So give me all the boreholes that are greater than 100 meters deep, and I filter that. And I'm going to have to exercise some patience here. Okay, so there we go. So there's the wells that are greater than 100 meters deep. If you want to go to 150, you'll see there are fewer wells, and so on. So there's many ways to filter the wells in here. If you want to say the name contains, I don't know, Stoville, so we'll just say Stove. You filter and just the wells in Stoville with the name come up. You could filter on, if you just were looking for one well, if you had a MOE well ID, we have the A tags in the database. So if you just wanted a well in Peel 5905642, I'm just going to randomly pick a number there. So you could find even one borehole really easily with this filter tool. So again, if you're looking for information, whether it's surface water stations, climate stations, boreholes, and so on, really, really powerful filtering capabilities. Okay, so I think that's roughly everything I want to show you with boreholes. I'm going to close that filter tool. I'm going to turn away from the borehole map. Okay, so now quickly I want to show you the numerical models that we have. So this is a program that Mason from our group manages. What time is it? It's 2:38. Okay, I'm a bit slower than I wanted to be, but so we have nearly 100 numerical models that we've collected over time. And so Source Water Protection created a lot of models, but we've also created models ourselves, and different partner agencies, Region of York, Peel, Durham, and the conservation authorities all have different models. And so there's another tool in here I use for looking at the modeling data. So you can find data on the map if I click this, and I can draw a box around any area. And what you wind up getting is these different kinds of numerical models that are available in the program. So if I want to see the mod flow models, I'll click here, and there's my mod flow models. And as I hover over the different models, I can see the boundary. I could open the reports here. So if I want to open that report, there's the report on that model. You know, some of them are consulting reports. That was just a paper. What we do with these models is if anyone wanted to use them from a partner agency or a consulting company, you would sign a model sharing agreement with us, kind of like a library. Would check it out. You would have the model, and all we ask is that if you make big changes or notice something wrong, that you let us know so that we can improve them for the next people going forward. Okay, so I just wanted to mention numerical models. That's kind of a quick themed map here. Okay, I want to jump to the water table map quickly because this one is good for you know, planners who might be on the line, or you know, consultants, anyone really, construction if you're working with one of the regional water agencies. So when you come to the water table themed map, the water table is on. So you can see it is on here. I'll open that up a bit. You can see there's contours. You can play around a little bit. All of these layers have a slider on them. So if you want it to be less, you know, less dark, the transparency button is here. As you zoom in, the contours change as you zoom. So on the water table map, what you're seeing here is groundwater would flow perpendicular to the contour lines once they load up. Again, we're just having to do a little bit of more patient waiting than normal. So there's all the contours, and groundwater would be flowing perpendicular to those contours, and you could float around and have a look. And so one of the other things I'll show you on this map right now is if I go to the tasks button at the top here, I can print. And so if I'm going to go print, shows me I'm going to print this box. We have logos up here. So if I was, you know, I think there's people from Gold or many consultants joined us today. So I could change the title of the map here, but I'll just go print. And again, this wasn't taking so long a few minutes ago, but with the Teams meeting, it might take a few secs. Okay, not so bad. So I can open the window, and there with the Gold logo, I've got my map. It's a reasonable map to put in a report if you need, or if you're running off to a meeting. So that's kind of a handy feature. And all, you know, you see all the logos from Durham, City of Toronto, all our partner agencies are up here. So that's the print feature I wanted to show you. Okay, where else am I going now? Water table. So the other thing on the water table map is I'll turn off the water table, and we also have the depth to water table. So when we've constructed the water table using only the shallow wells, less than 20 meters deep, and also the streams and lakes. And so we have a water table layer that's below the ground surface in most places. And what we decided to do is go, hey, give us the ground surface minus the water table and give us the depth to the water table. And so that's what this map is. Again, the contours change. So on the Oak Ridges Moraine, it can be up to 50 meters deep, usually 30, 40 meters below ground. Once you move towards Lake Ontario, it's certainly a lot shallower. So you can play around with that and look at the contours. One thing I should show you is when you do zoom in far enough on these maps, the source data shows up. So all of these wells here are shallow wells that we've used to generate the water table surface. And so if the screen is, this is 38 feet. So if it's less than 20 meters, it's incorporated into the water table surface. So of course the water table moves up and down depending on the year, seasonality, and so on. And so this is a long-term average water level. So the water levels that have gone into this have been taken in wet years, dry years, wet seasons, dry seasons, so on. But if you zoom in enough, you get to see the data. And then recently we've, actually the other thing on the depth to water table is if, let me zoom out again for a sec. I'll shut off the full water table. And what we've done is created a few maps down below here. So if I wanted to see, really give me the areas where the water table is less than a meter deep, whereas really we think it's really close to the ground surface. And if you're doing any road construction or whatever in these areas, you would probably be likely to find water. You can shut this transportation layer off too at the top. It cleans the map up a little bit, depending what you want to see. So, or conversely, if you want to see where's the water table greater than 10 meters. So we're working with the City of Toronto right now, trying to help them site maybe some of the bigger buildings that have deep excavations. They really are having problems accepting additional groundwater supplies into the sewer system. And so these areas would likely be dry in excavations up to 10 meters deep. Okay, so you can play around with that when you have a chance, the depth to water table. And then just recently we've added up potential discharge areas. So this, again, if you're interested in if groundwater is moving from the ground into streams, what we've done is in this surface, we've just used the wells themselves. We haven't used the streams and we haven't used the lakes. It's just contoured the water level from wells alone, 20 meters deep. And wherever that surface is above ground, you will see a gray area. And that just indicates to us that, you know, perhaps it's just because we don't have a lot of data. Like, again, if I just zoom to Kleinberg here, I think I noticed, you know, there's only a few wells. This is, I think, the Courtright Center. So there's very few shallow wells in this area. And the water table would be contouring from wells over here to wells over here. And so it might simply be that the water table goes across the valley here, intersects the valley walls. We've called it potential discharge area. It may have discharge, it may not. If we drilled another 20 wells down here, it might pull the water table down. So you got to be cautious on this. But in the past, when we've showed this to planners and fishery biologists, they say, son of a gun, there's a good match between discharge areas that they know about and how the mapping shows up. So that's up here as well for your use. So that's water table. I'm going to flip to the water budget map quickly. So again, Mason has ran a recharge runoff model across our whole geography. So what we're looking at now is our estimate of recharge. So if you're working on low impact development and you're trying to stuff water into the ground, this map could help you. It's a recharge map. You can look at runoff ET, precip as well. We have a specialty tool up here. If you go back to the specialty tools of water balance, and when you hit on that tool, I can upload a polygon if you have a site that you're working on, or I can draw a polygon on the map. I'm just going to draw a little square here, so I can pick any area in the geography. I'll do a little square. It says it captured the geometry. I say continue, and it zooms into that area and gives me my water budget. So, you know, this is an estimate. I mean, we're not saying it's accurate. Mason's doing some additional work on this. He'll talk about it in session 3 in more detail. So you could perhaps save questions on this for Mason later on. But I know he wants to run this as an ensemble model, and he has some big plans for it. So we're gonna push this in many different directions as we go forward. Okay, what else did I want to show you? So I'm looking at the time, 2:48. I've got about 10 minutes, and I wanted to do a few questions. So I'm gonna take you to the cross-section tool because I don't want to miss that. So again, when you go to in your maps window, the cross-section tool is the third map down. And when you click on it, you wind up with this map here. So I'm going to zoom out a bit. Once you're on this map, you can do a regional section. So if I pick the cross-section line here, I can do a cross-section anywhere I want. Regional, so I'm doing a regional section here. You double click at the end of the line to finish your section. And again, hopefully with the meeting going on, this won't be too slow. A little slower than normal. When you try this on your own, it'll be a lot faster. Like honestly, the guys at Cloca have optimized the site amazingly to be really fast. So there's your cross-section. These are our interpreted geological layers. Rick's going to talk about these next week in some detail. But you can see, you know, we have all the quaternary layers. So the quaternary geology is much more important in our geography here, except above the escarpment. We are, you know, more into the Paleozoic layers. We've just downloaded all the Paleozoic layers from a recent work that the Ontario Geological Survey and the GSC did, and so we're going to add, you know, when you come back into this cross-section tool in a few months, you're gonna see, you know, the Verulam, the Coburg, the Whirlpool, all those layers will be shown. It won't just be one bedrock layer below the quaternary stratigraphy. So one thing I wanted to mention is you can zoom in on a part of the layer, part of the cross section, just by, I usually do it from the bottom and zoom up because this box kind of gets in your way. We're trying to fix that and just to get it out of the way as you look at the section. And then you can reset the zoom. You can print these sections. So if you go here and download a JPEG or a PNG, did that, I think I messed that up. Download a PNG, it should pop up here. Yeah, so there's your cross section. So you can put that into PowerPoint or a different program and put your logo and so on it. So not a bad image. And then if you zoom in, so if I zoom in on the cross section tool, once you zoom in, you get the wells that are clustered. So I'm going to go, I kind of like them to be non-clustered. So I'm going to put on the non-clustered wells here. I'll turn off the clustered ones. And so there's an area we're looking at. We have this virtual borehole tool as well. So if I wanted to create a virtual borehole, so say I'm going to drill here where there's no wells, I can put that virtual borehole down, and it gives you an idea of how deep bedrock might be, where you might find our aquifers. So in all these sections, in quaternary geology, generally yellows and oranges are aquifers, and greens and darker colors are aquitards or low permeability tills. So this tells you, you know, the Oak Ridge's aquifer is up at near the surface, the Thorncliffe, Scarborough, and so on. And so you get an idea of what you might find. And you could do sections if you're just really at a fine scale, site scale. You can do a small section, and you get the small section, the wells show up and so on. And you can change the buffer if you want to see wells further off the section than 50 meters. You can play around with that here. You could search for wells and so on. So there's a number of tools you can explore on your own on the cross-section tool. So cross-sections are only available on the passworded site. So that's the cross-section tool I wanted to get to. Okay, so it's 252. I want to show you the groundwater levels. I haven't got there yet. So let me go to the water levels. So here's the groundwater level map. When you come onto this map, all the purple wells are wells that have more than 35 water levels. So they're long-term monitoring wells. I can also put just the active wells on. So some of the purple wells are wells that the MOE, you know, maybe monitored way back in the 60s and 70s when the old PGMN, the Provincial Groundwater Monitoring Program, was in place. So we have all of that data available as well. But if you click on any of these wells, so there's a number of things you can do here. So that's an Aurora well. I can open up the hydrograph for that well. I picked a bad one. So it doesn't have a lot of data, 2010 to 2020. So these are our partners, the regional municipalities, update the database fairly regularly for us. You know, they're good partners. There's a well that has a longer record, so I can open up the hydrograph this way. So there's a longer term hydrograph. You can see, you know, back to 82. It's very tricky in Canada to find long-term groundwater level series. And so we've spent a lot of work making sure the water levels are good, tied to the right screen. So a real focus in our database on naming wells properly, so you don't have to look for well number, you know, 6926534. You can look for Aurora wells, Cannington wells, Stova wells, all the important wells we've renamed and made easily accessible. On these hydrographs, you can see the bottom of the well, the ground surface. You can see where the screen is. And you can see the water levels declined in Aurora due to pumping, and then in 2008, they started moving to lake-based water, and the water levels have started to recover. So there's a long story in all of these hydrographs, and there's many ways to explore them. You can print these, you can download the data here. So a lot of powerful ways to explore and look at what you're doing. But one of the things I wanted to show you here quickly, and I'm going to wrap up fairly soon here, but I want to show you this time series analysis. So this is something, again, that Mason has put together for us. I'll just show you one well. Hopefully it'll work and won't be too slow. And I think that I'll wind up there because it's 250. It's 254. So if this works, then I'll just quickly show you what you can do in here. So this goes out to a different application that Mason's been working on. So we use R statistically to query the database. Mason sends it to a Shiny server that's in the States. So here what you wind up with is a similar kind of graph that you would get to looking at the surface water and climate data, which I didn't manage to get to. But when I wind up on these graphs, one of the first things I do, we have temperature data, which is at a very different scale here. So if I turn off the temperature data, you'll see that I get a nice hydrograph, and you can see that recovery in 2008. I can zoom in on any part of the hydrograph here, so you can float around and see what's happening. Now on the top here is what Mason calls atmospheric yield. So in the summertime, it's just precipitation. But in the winter, what he's done is done through his water budget modeling, and he'll talk more about this in session 3. Every time there's a melt event, you see a big spike of what water is available to the atmosphere, to the system. And so with shallow wells, what you can start to do now is see how the groundwater level is responding to any of these events. Now, this might be a deeper well. We could go to the map and we could use the filter tool to filter for shallow wells. And then what you start to notice is some wells have different responses. And what we want to do in the long term is characterize all of these groundwater level responses into hydrogeologic settings or aquifers and so on. And so these dots into the future will all be different colored based on their hydrogeologic response to climate data, to atmospheric yield, and so on. Okay, so you know what, there's a few things I didn't get to. So we have a groundwater quality themed map here. You can do Piper plots. You can play around with that. It's a specialty tool up here, and you could do that on your own. We could maybe have a different session on chemistry. There's a geology map here. So on the geology map, I didn't really get to it, but we have, it comes up with the digital elevation model, so you can see what the topography looks like. I'll turn that off. We have a lot of features here that are handy. We have all the superficial geology, bedrock geology. With the help of Christina and TRCA, we've produced a ribbon of the Iroquois shoreline. We have the Niagara Escarpment here. We have the Canadian Shield, bedrock valley delineation, tunnel channels from the GSC, closed depressions, hummocky topography, overburden thickness, all sorts of maps you can play around with. So there's a real geology focused theme here. And then one of the things I didn't show is through this layer catalog, this is where you can add. So if I wanted to see which deep wells or bedrock wells were lying over a bedrock valley, I could come and add. So say I want to add the flowing wells to this map. I just go through this layer catalog, and the flowing wells are going to come up on my map. So through this layer catalog, you can dance around through any layers from any one of our different themed maps. So there's the wells with the bedrock geology. So just to show you that you can mix and match anything on our maps. Okay, so that's geology, water quality I didn't get to. I didn't get to the monitoring data. There's just lots of stuff up here. So, I'll land it there. It's 3 o'clock. I really want to say thank you for your interest in the program. There's lots of other stuff in here, but I would really urge you to come to the website. Just have a look, take some time. There's lots and lots of information that we strongly believe can help you do a better job for Ontario in terms of making better water management decisions. And that's That's what we're trying to do. And it's a two-way street. We welcome any input, any advice, anything that you can offer to make this a better resource for the community.